Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Weed Talk News. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and this is the beginning of our final segment of that show. Now, for this week, there's a report from Arizona, Virginia, Oregon, and I put together a little story about the 10th Annual New England Cannabis Convention that was hosted in Boston at the Heinz Auditorium over the past weekend. Now, before we get to that, though, we've got a clip from Illinois correspondent Thomas Howards, who hosts the Cannabis Legalization news show that streams live on Sundays at 3 p.m. in Chicago. This week, he and his co-host, Miggy, discussed the letter written to the DEA by dozens of state attorney generals.
Hey, Cannabis Legalization News, thank you for tuning in. It is another Sunday. We have news out of 21, almost half of the country's attorney generals have written letters to Congress. It's our lead story. Is that going to be the end of high hemp? Should we start calling it high hemp? I don't know. Miggy's got some hemp stories that he's got. We also have stuff from D.C. We got a lot of state news. Got to name that strain. Kentucky's in the house. Delaware, New York, Canada. It's kind of international.
Hey. What up? Yeah, dude. Lots to talk about. How about that letter, though?
Yeah, this was an interesting letter, and it came out not that long ago, March 20th, so last week. And look at it. It's by how many people? It's a lot. And so it's the signature lines. And so go down to the signature lines and you can see, they start. And so they all have the attorney generals of whom they are from. I think this one's from the state of Indiana and Arkansas. So quite, maybe it's all the Republican ones, but there's the attorney general of Hawaii. There's the one of Colorado, Connecticut, Georgia, kind of expect Georgia and Iowa, and Kansas. But then you have Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Washington. So a hodgepodge of legal and illegal states have sent this to both houses of Congress. And so that is for the Committee on Agriculture in both sides, the United States Senate, and then, of course, the United States House of Representatives.
And this weekend, Boston played host to the 10th Annual New England Cannabis Convention. Now, both days, Friday and Saturday, packed 3 exhibition rooms at the Heinz Auditorium in Boston for celebration of cannabis business.
Bon, Switzerland artisanal edible.
The NECANN Cup showcased growing and manufacturers and drew a huge crowd from upstairs from the main convention. There, your usual vendor exhibitions were consumers and business professionals. They all packed the hall. MJBIZ Daily's editor Omar Sacirbey was the keynote speaker. Are you confident that the DEA is going to do something, whether it's just Schedule 3 or a D schedule?
Yeah, I'm not that confident that the DEA is going to do something. I think it's possible. I don't want to be doom and gloom and say that they're not going to do it, but I feel like this is something that's been out there for a long time. It's been discussed for years and in even decades, really. So it's not like something new that needs to be thought about, some big deep thoughts on. So I'm a little worried that the DEA is taking so long on this. I'm wondering sometimes. I ask myself if they're finding a way to get out of doing the right thing.
And now we continue with this week's Weed Talk News with Karen Black and the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. It's story time in Arizona, Story Cannabis, that is. On March 22nd, Story held rebranding events at 2 Metro Phoenix dispensaries it recently acquired. The shindigs followed similar ones at 3 other Arizona dispensaries earlier this month. Cannabis bills in the Grand Canyon state are going up in smoke. Of the 15 or 16 original measures introduced this year, 5 are still alive, 2 in the Senate and 3 in the House. We'll have more legislative updates for you next week. The big news is the Earl Cup, which was held March 16th and 17th in Mesa. It began in 2015 with a mission to help patients get access to plant medicine. It has since evolved into Arizona's largest cannabis awards and festival event and is focused on patient appreciation and dispensary accountability. Here's how it works. Earl Cup secret shops dispensaries in Arizona and blindly tests all purchased products alongside all product submissions in a lab of their choosing. Arizona has no regulations on cannabis testing, so Earl Cup borrows from California's and Colorado's to create their own testing requirements. This year's tester of choice was Level 1 Labs. There were over 35 awards across 2 classes. As for the dispensary class, Aries was the big winner of the weekend, scoring 6 first-place medals and 12 total. Next was Dime Industries with 6 awards and 1 top honor. Notably, Dime placed in all but 1 of the 7 vape pen categories. Abundant Organics took home 5 trophies. Mojave Cannabis Co. and Halo Infusion scored 4 medals each, and Bud Bros, Amber, and Alava each took home 3. Qualifier Farms also scored 3 first-place wins in the open class. That's all for the Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
Oregon has an interesting relationship with legal cannabis. Once again, they grow too much weed, and now sales are going down. Here's Marianne Cursetjee with the Oregon Cannabis Report.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. This week, Oregon Governor Kotek signed HB 4121, which institutes a permanent license moratorium based on population. This is monumental for a state that has clung to the quasi-open market ideals for so long. It is a relief for most cannabis operators who are struggling to survive. Also, this week, Beard Bros Media published a story by Adam Teuchler with Utopia, highlighting some of the problems with the proposed batch tagging system. The OLCC also held a hearing collecting public testimony about the new batch tagging rules. Initially, batch tagging was supposed to be a benefit for growers who are now required to individually tag every single flowering plant. The concept of tagging a batch of up to 100 plants could provide huge savings to growers. Sadly, the way the OLCC is implementing these changes will create more costs and more headaches for growers. You can also learn more about the details by reading the excellent summary by attorney Kevin Jacoby. And finally, what are your 420 plans? Events will be hopping here in Oregon. Lots of live music and performances. Be sure to check out the Whalers at High Noon and Boring. That's the Oregon Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi.
Virginia was the first southern state to pass an adult use legalization law. Unfortunately, that state can't get its weed rules together for a launch, and now the battle involves their governor. We have a great insider in that state reporting from there now. So here's Joe Parsons with his Virginia Cannabis Report.
I'm Joe Parsons from the Virginia Cannabis Connection with the Virginia Cannabis Report on Weed Talk News. There was a surprising twist revealed on Friday for HB 698, the bill that was to set the guidelines for the retail cannabis market. Washington, D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab sent a letter to the Capitals and Wizards owner Ted Leonis, stating that the teams are contractually obligated and can't break their lease with the Capital One Arena until 2047, even if they can prepay their outstanding bond debt. He stated in the letter, "I'm advising you that the district does not agree with your legal conclusion that Monumental's proposed arena move to Virginia does not violate or breach its legal obligations to the district." Further adding that Monumental has also broken other promises to the district by negotiating preliminary agreements with Virginia. Why this matters is because key Democratic leaders were hoping that they could leverage the arena deal to get the governor to pass several key Democratic-led bills, including the retail sales bill HB 698. The deal may very well be up in smoke if the arena move is completely off the table. However, it could be the turning point that gets the bill passed, as the cannabis industry could easily replace the lost jobs and revenue that the new arena would have brought in. The bill has an April 8th deadline to get the governor's decision. I will follow up, of course, as this one develops. In other news, 420 is less than a month away. If you haven't already gotten your 420 holiday plan set, I got you covered. The third annual Virginia 420 Festival is going to be raising the bar this year with the first ever dual location event. With more than just great vibes and music, the festival will feature an educational experience with industry leaders, speakers, and pioneers from the industry, and legalization insights from Michael Krawitz. There's also cultivation and industry classes for those who want to be there and ready for when the industry truly unfolds. Don't worry, the music will definitely be on point, with artists like Keller Williams, the Cottonmouth Kings, Roots of Creation, and many, many more. I'm going to be there covering the whole event with behind-the-scenes access, interviews with industry professionals, and several live streams each day. I'm super excited to be able to cover this monumental event. So join me April 18th through the 20th from the Misty Mountain Resort in Greenwood and Garrett Farms in beautiful Salem. For tickets and more information, go to Virginia420festival.com and follow me on Virginia Cannabis Connection as well for updates. Well, that's all for this week's Virginia Cannabis Report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Joe Parsons from the Virginia Cannabis Connection. Until next time, stay lifted.
And finally tonight, we try to cover as many news stories as possible in our weekly report. You know that. And today we will extend that to Europe, in Greece, to be exact. It seems that there's a law enforcement officer who was using his patrol car to drive cannabis to a buyer in northern Greece. Now, they weren't setting up a sting. He and his Albanian passenger were trying to sell 225 pounds of cannabis. I mean, who would think that a police officer driving in an unmarked car would get pulled over, right? Sure enough, that's what happened, and he got arrested. You see, that's why we say it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly, and if you are a law enforcement officer, use your own car. That's this week's Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto. We will see you next time.